The Mysterious Treasure Hunt. Content Introduction. In a distant and magical land, there is a legend of a mysterious treasure that holds incredible power. Our protagonist, Alex, a young and adventurous soul, stumbles upon an ancient map that seems to lead to this fabled treasure. With a heart full of curiosity and a sense of calm determination, Alex embarks on this extraordinary journey. Along the way, he meets various interesting characters, like the wise old wizard Ben and the kind-hearted elf Lily. They travel through enchanted forests, over gentle hills, and across calm rivers. The air is filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the soft chirping of birds. There are no intense battles or life-threatening dangers at every turn. Instead, it's a leisurely exploration, where they solve small puzzles and riddles left by the ancients. As they get closer to the treasure, they begin to understand that perhaps the real value of this hunt isn't just the treasure itself, but the memories and friendships they've forged on this relaxing adventure. Will they finally reach the treasure? And what secrets will it hold? Chapter 1: The Departure. The night was as thick as ink, with only a few stars faintly twinkling in the distant sky. Alex stood at the gate of his small courtyard, tightly holding the ancient map in his hand. The paper of the map was yellowed, as if carrying the vicissitudes of countless years. The lines on it were curved and mysterious, like a path leading to an unknown world. Alex took a deep breath, his heart filled with both excitement and a touch of nervousness. He had always dreamed of such an adventure. The map in his hand was his ticket to a world beyond his imagination. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Ben, the old wizard. His long beard fluttered in the gentle breeze, and his eyes sparkled with wisdom. "Are you ready, young one?" he asked in a voice that was both soft and firm. Alex nodded vigorously. "Yes, I am," he replied. With that, the two of them set off on their journey, leaving the quiet village behind. As they walked along the narrow path, the sound of their footsteps was the only noise in the stillness. The path was lined with wild flowers, their colors dim in the moonlight. Alex couldn't help but reach out and touch one of the flowers gently. The petals felt soft under his fingertips, like a gentle caress. Suddenly, a soft rustling sound came from the bushes beside the path. Alex's heart skipped a beat, and he instinctively took a step back. Ben, however, remained calm. He raised his hand and made a gesture of peace. "Don't be afraid, it's just a little creature," he said. Sure enough, a small rabbit hopped out of the bushes. Its eyes were bright and curious as it looked at the two travelers. Alex smiled, feeling a sense of relief. The rabbit stayed for a moment, then bounded away into the night. The night passed slowly, and as the first rays of dawn began to peek over the horizon, they found themselves in a small meadow. The grass was covered with dewdrops, glistening like pearls in the early morning light. Ben sat down on a rock and took out a flask. He took a sip and then offered it to Alex. "Drink, it will give you some strength," he said. Alex took the flask and took a small sip. The liquid inside was warm and had a strange, but pleasant taste. After resting for a while, they continued their journey. The sun rose higher in the sky, and the world around them became more vivid. They passed by a small stream, the water flowing gently and making a soothing sound. Alex bent down and washed his face with the clear water. It was cold and refreshing. As they walked, they talked about many things. Ben told Alex stories of his own adventures when he was young, and Alex listened with wide eyes. He was fascinated by the tales of magic and mystery. In the afternoon, they came across a small forest. The trees were tall and ancient, their branches reaching out like giant arms. There was a sense of tranquility in the forest, but also a hint of mystery. Ben motioned for Alex to follow closely. "Be careful in here," he said in a low voice. "There may be some magic at work." As they entered the forest, the air seemed to grow thicker. The sunlight filtering through the leaves created dappled patterns on the ground. Alex felt a strange energy around him, like a soft current flowing through the air. Suddenly, they heard a faint singing. It was a beautiful and enchanting sound, as if coming from another world. Alex looked at Ben questioningly. "Follow the sound," Ben said. "It may lead us to something interesting." They walked deeper into the forest, following the source of the singing. The sound grew louder, and finally, they came to a small clearing. In the middle of the clearing was a small pool of water. The water was so clear that they could see the bottom. And around the pool, there were small, glowing creatures. They were like tiny fairies, their wings fluttering gently as they sang. Alex was in awe. He had never seen anything like this before. Ben smiled. "These are the sprites of the forest," he said. "They are guardians of this place." The sprites noticed the two travelers and stopped singing. They looked at Alex and Ben with curiosity. One of the sprites flew closer and hovered in front of Alex. Its eyes were bright and intelligent. Alex reached out his hand slowly, and the sprite landed on his finger. It felt light as a feather. The sprite chirped softly, and then flew back to its companions. After spending some time in the clearing, they continued on their way. The forest seemed to thin out as they walked, and soon. Chapter 2: The Ancient Ruins. As they emerged from the forest, a vast expanse of desolate land stretched out before them. The ground was parched and cracked, and a strong, hot wind blew sand into their faces. Alex squinted his eyes and pulled up the collar of his robe to shield himself. "According to the map," Ben said, holding it up against the bright sunlight, "the ancient ruins should be somewhere in this wasteland." They pressed on, their footsteps leaving deep imprints in the soft sand. The hours passed, and the sun began to sink towards the horizon, casting long shadows. Just when Alex was starting to feel hopeless, they saw something in the distance. It was a large, crumbling wall. As they got closer, they could make out more details. The wall was made of a strange, dark stone, and there were carvings on it that seemed to tell a story, though the centuries had worn them almost beyond recognition. "These are the ruins," Ben said, excitement evident in his voice. "Be on your guard, there may be traps." They entered through a gap in the wall. Inside, the ruins were silent, except for the occasional gust of wind whistling through the empty corridors. The structures were grand, even in their dilapidated state. Pillars stood tall, some of them with bits of broken stone still hanging from the top. Alex walked up to one of the pillars and ran his hand along the rough surface. He could feel the history beneath his fingertips. Suddenly, he heard a clicking sound. Before he could react, a section of the floor beneath him gave way. "Alex!" Ben shouted, reaching out. But it was too late. Alex fell into a dark hole. For a moment, all was black and silent. Then, Alex slowly opened his eyes. He was in a small chamber, the walls glowing with a faint, green light. There were no obvious exits, just a single pedestal in the center. On the pedestal was a small, crystal-like object. As Alex approached it, he felt a strange energy pulling him. He reached out and picked up the crystal. Suddenly, the chamber was filled with a bright flash of light. When the light subsided, a figure appeared before him. It was a ghostly apparition, its form transparent but still distinguishable. "Who are you?" Alex asked, his voice echoing in the chamber. "I am the guardian of this place," the apparition said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You have taken the crystal. Now, you must face the trials." With that, the walls of the chamber began to shift. Alex was startled, but he held tightly to the crystal. The shifting walls created a maze-like structure, and Alex had to find his way out. He walked along the narrow corridors, his heart pounding. Every now and then, he would come across a dead end and have to turn back. But he also noticed that the crystal he held was glowing brighter in some areas, as if guiding him. Meanwhile, above ground, Ben was worried sick. He searched around the area where Alex had fallen, trying to find a way down. He found a small passage that seemed to lead into the depths of the ruins. "Alex, I'm coming," he muttered to himself as he entered the passage. The passage was dark and narrow, and Ben had to use his magic to create a small ball of light to see. He walked carefully, watching out for any signs of danger. Back in the chamber, Alex was getting closer to the exit. The maze was becoming more complex, but the crystal's glow was getting stronger. Finally, he saw a faint light at the end of a corridor. He ran towards it. As he emerged from the corridor, he found himself in a large hall. The hall was filled with ancient artifacts. And at the far end, there was a door. Just as Alex was about to approach the door, Ben entered the hall from another passage. "Alex!" Ben exclaimed, relieved to see the young man. "Ben! I found this crystal and went through some trials, Alex said, holding up the crystal. Ben looked at the crystal with interest. This could be a powerful artifact, he said. They walked towards the door together. As they got closer, they could see that the door was made of a solid piece of metal, with strange symbols engraved on it. Ben studied the symbols for a moment. I think I can open this, he said. He closed his eyes and began to mutter incantations. The symbols on the door began to glow, and slowly, the door creaked open. Beyond the door was a large, circular room. In the center of the room was a pedestal, much larger than the one in the chamber below. Chapter 3: The Mysterious Pedestal. The air in the circular room was thick with an otherworldly energy. As Alex and Ben stepped inside, they felt a strange pressure on their chests. What is this place? Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ben shook his head, his eyes fixed on the pedestal. I'm not sure, but this pedestal seems to be the key to something important. They approached the pedestal cautiously. On top of it was the crystal. Alex exclaimed, holding up the crystal he had found earlier. It looks like it would fit here. Without hesitation, Alex placed the crystal into the. As soon as it was in place, the room was bathed in a golden light. The walls began to shimmer, and images appeared. The images showed a great battle from long ago. Powerful beings with wings and halos fought against dark, shadowy creatures. It was a scene of chaos and destruction. These must be the ancient legends, Ben said, his eyes wide with wonder. As the images faded, a voice boomed through the room. Those who have come this far, listen well. This place holds the power to change the world. But with power comes great responsibility. Suddenly, the pedestal began to shake, and a beam of light shot up from it, reaching the ceiling. The light then spread out, forming a dome over the room. Inside the dome, a figure materialized. It was a beautiful woman, her long hair flowing like liquid gold. I am the spirit of this place, she said. You have passed the first test. But there are more challenges to come. Alex and Ben looked at each other. What kind of challenges? Alex asked. The challenges of the elements, the spirit replied. Fire, water, earth, and air. You must prove your worth in each. With that, the dome of light disappeared, and the room returned to normal. A passage opened on the other side of the room. Shall we? Ben said, looking at Alex. Alex nodded, and they entered the passage. It led them to a large chamber filled with flames. The heat was intense, and the air was thick with the smell of burning. This is the trial of fire, Ben said. We need to find a way through without getting burned. Alex looked around. He saw that there were small platforms floating in the air, but they were surrounded by the flames. Maybe we can use our magic to jump from one platform to another, Alex suggested. Ben agreed. They focused their magic, and with a leap, they landed on the first platform. But as they did, the flames seemed to intensify. They continued to jump from platform to platform, the heat searing their skin. Alex could feel his energy being drained, but he pushed on. Finally, they reached the other side of the chamber. There was a door there, and as they approached it, it opened. The next chamber was filled with water. A large pool took up most of the space, and the water was a deep blue, green color. There were no visible platforms or paths. How are we supposed to get through this? Alex asked. Ben studied the water. I think there's something underneath. Maybe we need to swim down. Taking a deep breath, Alex dove into the water. The water was cold and filled with strange currents. As he swam deeper, he saw a series of tunnels. He swam into one of the tunnels, his lungs starting to ache. After a short distance, he saw a faint light. He swam towards it and emerged in a small, underwater chamber. In the chamber was a large, glowing pearl. Alex reached out and took it. As he did, the water around him seemed to calm. He swam back to the surface and showed the pearl to Ben. I think this is the key to passing the water trial. Sure enough, as they held the pearl, a bridge of water formed across the pool, allowing them to cross to the other side. The next trial was of earth. The chamber was filled with large boulders and dirt. There were strange markings on the walls, and the ground seemed to shift beneath their feet. We need to find the pattern in these markings, Ben said, running his hand along the wall. Alex joined him, and together they studied the markings. After a while, Alex noticed that some of the markings seemed to form a path. Look, he said, pointing. If we follow this pattern, it might lead us through. They began to follow the pattern, carefully stepping over the shifting ground. Every now and then, a boulder would roll towards them, but they managed to dodge. Finally, they. Chapter 4, The Air Trial and Beyond. As they successfully navigated the Earth Trial, they entered a new chamber. This one was filled with a howling wind that buffeted them about. The air was thin, and it was difficult to breathe. This is the trial of air, Ben shouted over the noise of the wind. We need to find a way to control it or at least move against it. Alex crouched down, trying to steady himself. He noticed that there were small whirlwinds scattered throughout the chamber. Some seemed to be moving in a somewhat predictable pattern. Maybe we can use those whirlwinds to our advantage, Alex suggested. We could ride them to get across. Ben looked skeptical but nodded. It's worth a try. But be careful, they look dangerous. Alex took a deep breath and aimed for one of the smaller whirlwinds. As he got close, he leaped into it. The wind spun him around, but he managed to hold on. He could feel the wind trying to tear him apart, but he focused his will. Slowly, he was able to guide the whirlwind towards the other side of the chamber. Ben followed suit, and soon they were both on the other side, battered but victorious. In the center of this new area was a pedestal, much like the one in the first room. On it lay a small, golden feather. "I think this is a reward for passing the air trial," Alex said, picking up the feather. As he did, the wind in the chamber died down. Just then, the ground beneath them began to shake. A large crack opened up, and a staircase leading downwards was revealed. "Should we go down?" Ben asked. Alex shrugged. "We've come this far. I think we have to." They descended the staircase, which seemed to go on forever. When they finally reached the bottom, they found themselves in a vast, dark hall. The only light came from small, glowing orbs that hung from the ceiling at irregular intervals. The hall was filled with a sense of foreboding. As they walked forward, they heard strange whispers. "I don't like this," Ben said, his voice trembling slightly. Suddenly, figures emerged from the shadows. They were not human, but rather some sort of shadowy beings. Their eyes glowed with an eerie light. "Who are you?" Alex demanded, holding the golden feather in front of him. The shadowy beings did not answer but instead advanced on them. Alex and Ben readied their magic, but they were unsure if it would be effective against these unknown creatures. The first shadowy being lunged at Alex. He sent a blast of energy towards it, but the creature seemed to absorb it. "Our magic isn't working," Ben shouted. Alex looked around frantically. He noticed that one of the glowing orbs was flickering. He ran towards it. As he got closer, he realized that the orb was not just a light source but also seemed to have some sort of power. He reached out and touched it. Suddenly, a wave of energy spread out from the orb, pushing back the shadowy beings. "These orbs must be the key to dealing with them," Alex said. They quickly moved from one orb to another, touching them and using their energy to fend off the shadowy beings. Slowly, they made their way through the hall. At the end of the hall was a large door. As they approached it, the door creaked open. Inside was a room filled with bookshelves that reached up to the ceiling. In the center of the room was a table, and on it was a large book. The cover of the book was inscribed with strange symbols. "What do you think this is?" Ben asked, walking towards the table. Alex followed. "I don't know, but it seems important. Maybe it holds the answers we've been looking for." As Ben reached out to touch the book, a voice filled the room. "Those who seek the truth must first answer a riddle." The voice was deep and booming, and it seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Ask your riddle," Alex said, standing tall. The voice laughed. "I am not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. What am I?" Alex and Ben looked at each other, deep in thought. After a moment, Alex's eyes lit up. "I think I know. It's fire." The voice was silent for a moment, and then it laughed again. "Correct. You may now open the book." Ben opened the book, and as he did, a bright light filled the room. The light revealed more images, but... Chapter 5, The Revelation in the Ancient Tome. The light from the open book gradually subsided, revealing pages filled with ancient symbols and faded illustrations. Alex and Ben leaned in closer, their eyes straining to make sense of what was before them. "These symbols, they look familiar," Alex murmured, his finger tracing over one of the strange characters. "I think I've seen something like them in the old texts back at the academy." Ben nodded slowly. "But what do they mean? And how are they related to this place and our journey?" As they continued to study the book, they noticed that some of the illustrations depicted a great battle, with powerful beings unleashing devastating magic. There were also images of a land that seemed to be in chaos, with mountains crumbling and rivers drying up. Suddenly, a passage of text caught Alex's attention. He began to translate it as best he could. "It says here that this place was once a sacred ground, a place where the boundaries between different realms were thin. And there was an object, a powerful artifact, that could control the balance between these realms." Ben's eyes widened. "So, is that what we're looking for? This artifact?" Alex shrugged. "Maybe. But it doesn't say where it is or what it even looks like." Just then, they heard a noise coming from behind them. They turned to see that the shadowy beings had somehow managed to follow them through the hall. "Quick, we need to keep looking for clues while we can," Ben said, his voice urgent. Alex flipped through the pages of the book faster. Another illustration caught his eye. It showed a strange, crystal-like structure with rays of light shooting out from it. "I think this might be the artifact," Alex said, pointing to the illustration. "And look, there's a map of sorts on the next page." The map was crude, but it showed a path leading deeper into the ruins. "We have to go," Alex said, closing the book and tucking it under his arm. They started down the path indicated on the map, with the shadowy beings hot on their heels. The path led them through a series of narrow corridors. As they rounded a corner, they came across a large chamber. In the center of the chamber was a structure that matched the illustration in the book. But before they could approach it, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a tall, hooded figure, and it held a staff in its hand. "Who are you?" Alex demanded, holding the book protectively. The figure did not answer but instead raised its staff. A blast of dark energy shot towards them. Alex and Ben quickly dodged, and then attacked with their own magic. But the figure seemed to anticipate their moves and easily deflected their attacks. "We need to work together," Ben said between breaths. "Maybe we can find a weakness." They exchanged a glance and then began to coordinate their attacks. Alex sent a wave of energy from the left, while Ben sent a blast of fire from the right. The figure was forced to defend from both sides, and for a moment, it was distracted. Taking advantage of this, Alex ran towards the crystal-like structure. But as he got closer, he felt a powerful force pushing him back. "Ben, I can't get to it!" Alex shouted. Ben was still engaged with the hooded figure. "Use the book. Maybe it has some power here." Alex quickly opened the book and held it up. To his surprise, a beam of light shot out from the book and struck the force field around the structure. The force field began to weaken, and Alex was able to make his way closer. Just as he was about to reach the structure, the hooded figure broke free from Ben's attacks and lunged towards Alex. But Ben was quick. He sent a final, powerful blast of magic that hit the figure square in the back. The figure stumbled forward, but it was still close enough to grab Alex's arm. Alex struggled, trying to break free. He looked at the structure, which was now within reach. With a final burst of strength, he wrenched his arm away and placed his hand on the structure. As soon as he did, a surge of energy coursed through his body. The room was filled with a blinding light, and when the light faded, the hooded figure was gone. The structure began to hum, and a small compartment opened up. Inside was a small, glowing stone. "Is this the artifact?" Ben asked, walking over to Alex. Alex picked up the stone. "I think so. But what does it do?" As if in answer, the stone began to pulse, and strange visions filled their minds. Chapter 6: The Unveiled Prophecy. The visions brought by the glowing stone were a chaotic blend of images. Alex saw a world bathed in darkness, with great cities in ruins and people crying out for help. Ben, on the other hand, witnessed a group of warriors, their faces obscured, standing on a battlefield, their weapons forged from strange lights. "What does all this mean?" Ben asked, his voice trembling slightly. Alex shook his head, still trying to make sense of what he had seen. "I'm not sure, but it can't be good. That stone, it must be the key to preventing whatever this is." Just then, the walls of the chamber began to shake. Cracks appeared, and pieces of stone started to fall. "We need to get out of here," Alex said, pocketing the stone. They ran towards the exit of the chamber, but as they reached the corridor, they found it blocked by a pile of rubble. "Damn it," Ben cursed. "There has to be another way out." They turned back into the chamber, looking for an alternative exit. In the corner, they noticed a small passage that they hadn't seen before. "Let's try that," Alex said, leading the way. The passage was narrow and dark, and they had to hunch over to move forward. After a few minutes, they emerged into a small room. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on it was a scroll. Alex walked over and unrolled it. The scroll contained a prophecy. It says that the bearer of the stone will face great trials. Only by mastering its power and uniting the scattered forces can the coming darkness be vanquished. Ben looked at Alex. "So, that's us? We're the ones who have to save the world." Alex let out a deep breath. "It seems so. But first, we need to figure out how to master this stone's power." As they were discussing this, a soft voice filled the room. It was as if the air itself was speaking. "To master the stone, you must first understand its origin. Seek the well of memories, and there you will find the answers you seek." The voice faded, and Alex and Ben exchanged a look. "Well, it looks like we have a new destination," Ben said. They left the room and continued to explore the ruins, looking for a way out. After some time, they found a staircase that led upwards. At the top of the staircase, they emerged into a large courtyard. The sky above was a strange, purplish hue, and the air was thick with an otherworldly energy. In the middle of the courtyard was a portal. It was a swirling mass of colors, and it seemed to be calling to them. "Do we go through?" Ben asked. Alex looked at the portal, then at the stone in his pocket. "I think this is the way to the well of memories. We have to." With a deep breath, they stepped through the portal. On the other side, they found themselves in a vast, grassy plain. In the distance, they could see a large, ancient-looking tree. As they approached the tree, they noticed that its roots seemed to be pulsating with a faint light. Could this be the well of memories? Alex wondered aloud. Just then, a figure emerged from behind the tree. It was an old man, his face lined with wisdom and his eyes twinkling with a strange light. "Welcome, young ones," the old man said. "You seek the well of memories. But to access it, you must first pass a test." Alex and Ben exchanged a determined look. "We're ready," Alex said. The old man nodded. "Then, tell me, what is the most precious thing in your life?" Ben thought for a moment. "My friendship with Alex. We've been through so much together." Alex smiled at his friend. Then he turned to the old man. "For me, it's the hope of a better future. A future where there is no more darkness and destruction." The old man seemed pleased with their answers. "Very well. Approach the tree, and let the well of memories show you what you need to see." Alex and Ben walked towards the tree. As they got closer, they felt a strange pulling sensation. Suddenly, they were surrounded by a mist, and their minds were filled with a flood of memories, not just their own, but memories from a time long past. Chapter 7 – The Past Unveiled. Images flashed before their eyes, as if they were watching a movie of an ancient era. There were grand palaces made of crystal, and people with wings soaring through the sky. Alex saw a group of powerful beings, their auras so strong that it was overwhelming. They were gathered around a large, glowing orb, which seemed to be the source of all power in this world. Ben, on the other hand, witnessed a great war. Dark creatures with twisted forms clashed with the forces of light. The battle was fierce, and the land was devastated. Among the images, they also saw a young woman with long, flowing hair. She was holding the same stone that Alex now possessed. "Who is she?" Ben asked, his eyes fixed on the woman in the vision. Alex shook his head. "I don't know, but she seems important." As the visions continued, they saw the woman being chased by a group of dark figures. She fled into a hidden cave and placed the stone in a niche in the wall. Then, the memories faded, and they found themselves back in front of the tree. The old man was waiting for them. "You have seen the past. Now, you must use this knowledge to master the stone." Alex took out the stone. It seemed to be glowing more brightly than before. "I think I understand a little better," Alex said. "This stone was created to fight against the darkness, but it was hidden away for some reason." The old man nodded. "Correct. And now, it is up to you to fulfill its destiny. But beware, the darkness will not give up easily." Just as the old man finished speaking, a dark cloud began to gather in the sky. Lightning flashed, and a powerful, malevolent force was approaching. "Here it comes," Ben said, his hands balled into fists. The cloud descended, and from it emerged a horde of shadowy creatures. They had sharp claws and glowing red eyes. Alex held up the stone, and a beam of light shot out from it, striking one of the creatures. The creature let out a screech and disappeared. "Keep using the stone," the old man shouted. Alex continued to direct the power of the stone at the creatures, but there were too many of them. Ben joined in, using his own energy to fight. As they fought, Alex noticed that the stone's power seemed to be draining quickly. "We need a better strategy," he said between breaths. Just then, Ben had an idea. "Remember those powerful beings around the orb in the vision? Maybe we can use the stone to call for their help." Alex nodded. He closed his eyes and concentrated, trying to channel the stone's power in a different way. Slowly, a faint glow began to surround the stone, and a strange symbol appeared in the air. Suddenly, a portal opened in the sky, and a figure stepped out. It was one of the powerful beings from the vision. The being looked at the battle below and let out a powerful roar. The shadowy creatures cowered in fear. With a wave of his hand, the being sent a shockwave through the horde, destroying many of the creatures. Alex and Ben were in awe. "Thank you," Alex said to the being. The being nodded. "You have called upon the power of the ancients. But this is just the beginning. The true battle lies ahead." The being then merged with the stone, and its power increased exponentially. Alex felt a new strength coursing through his body. He raised the stone high, and a massive blast of light filled the sky, destroying the remaining shadowy creatures. The old man smiled. "Well done, young ones. Now, you must continue on your journey. There are others who will help you, and many more challenges to face." Alex and Ben looked at each other. They knew that their adventure was far from over. They thanked the old man and set off across the plain, towards an unknown destination. As they walked, the stone in Alex's hand continued to glow, as if guiding them forward. After a while, they came across a small village. The houses were made of wood and stone, and the people seemed to be living in fear. "What's going on here?" Ben asked a passing villager. The villager looked around nervously. "There is a dark force nearby. It has been attacking our village at night. We don't know what to do." Alex and Ben exchanged a look. "We may be able to help," Alex said. The villager's eyes lit up with hope. "Please, anything you can do." That night, as the moon rose high in the sky, the dark force came. It was a large,